If a white mathematician came up with that formula, be careful! You might want to put a helmet on. This could hurt. This is Wretched Radio. You, upon hearing the headline of this particular story, might just want to run your head into a wall. Not the way that I did a few weeks ago in the middle of the night. That was kind of an accident. You might want to do it intentionally because we see the world, what they're doing, how they're thinking, and you just put your palm to your forehead and think about V8s and just go, what is the matter with people? Well, they're lost and they're confused and their minds are darkened. Having said that, does it get any more bonkers than this? University asks professors to consider the race of mathematicians before relying on their work. Oh, we're decolonizing math, are we? That's right. If a white mathematician came up with that formula, be careful. Don't use that because, well, actually, I don't know why exactly, but I think it has to do with critical race theory, if I'm not incorrect. This is simply applying some of the structures and framework of CRT. If white people are oppressors, then everything that they put their hand to is systemic, and it's racist. Therefore, we got to get rid of it all. It doesn't even matter if the white person concocted something really great, like a theorem or a formula that helps us to understand. Let's get rid of Einstein. No theory of white guy. And he had a mustache. That must count negatively for something because that's really masculine. This is preposterous, but this is the outworking of critical race theory. And it's another demonstration that, Pastor, you do not want it in your church. I don't think that we need to be snarky about it, but no, it can't come in. I'm not going to entertain it. I'm not going to talk about its particular benefits because all of its benefits can be achieved by simply studying the Bible and studying history and looking around and actually talking to people. We don't need CRT, which is a dead-end street. The view of University of Rhode Island, I see. This is the view of the University of Rhode Island Director of Graduate Studies of History. Science, statistics, and technology are all inherently racist, he said. Wow. I had no idea. Jimmy, you ever built anything?
Yeah.
What?
I built tables.
Oh, racist. Tables are racist. Tables are racist. You just made them to oppress people.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
To the people that couldn't afford to buy them from me.
Uh-huh. So tell me, disc jockey.
Yes.
You ever spin discs and talk on the radio?
Absolutely.
That was racist too. Because you did it. Now, how unhelpful is that? People want to call it a helpful analytical tool. Well, it is an entirely destructive conversational tool. Durham University is calling on professors in the math department to ask themselves if they're citing work with mostly white or male mathematicians. And speaking of Marxism, because that's basically where the CRT business is going, and that would make sense because it initially does have its genesis in a fellow named Karl Marx. It's not coincidence. That's where we get Marxism from. Antonio Gramsci took the idea and said, let's just change this up a little bit and make it oppressor and oppressed. And that framework flourished. It was introduced into law schools in maybe the 90s, but it's caught on everywhere now. Some law schools just totally reject it. People like to say it's a legal theory. Well, okay, it's a legal theory. What does that have to do with understanding issues of skin color? The Bible informs me on that. Not that you probably need this, but I thought it was relatively pithy, especially in this era where so many students, they think Marxism might be really groovy. It has to be about 15 years ago, maybe 14 years ago. I went to Georgia Tech, wandering around to witness to the kids. I clearly didn't belong there. They're all really smart. And I went to the board. It's the place where you pin up your activity, room for rent, you're selling a car, books, etc. Here's the play that's going to be performed. And there was a banner, and not on that pole, but a lot of them on that pole and other poles announcing that the Communism Club was meeting. I was like, wait, that was probably 2008. What? The kids are being slammed with it, and it is antithetical to biblical Christianity. Thank you to Joseph Matera for this. Socialism is against the biblical view of the nuclear family. Can't argue that. They don't like family because they know it's the bedrock institution of our culture. Marxists argue that, quote, the nuclear family performs ideological functions for capitalism. The family acts as a unit of consumption and teaches passive acceptance of hierarchy. It is also the institution through which the wealthy pass down their private property to their children, thus reproducing class inequality. That sounds biblical, doesn't it? Number 2. Socialists claim education belongs solely to the state. Well, that's kind of where we're at right now, isn't it? I think if the state could shut down homeschooling, they'd do it in a heartbeat. If they could get rid of Christian schools, I think they would be just fine with that. Number 3, socialists claim the state deserves the highest allegiance. No, Jesus deserves the highest allegiance. Family is valued by God because he created the institution. God actually likes these things, and he has instructed parents, you're the one responsible for training up your children. Now, you can let others do that too, but you're responsible for it. The state wants to remove that responsibility from you and take it upon themselves. Talk about chutzpah. You should know that in many communist nations, like the former Soviet Union, North Korea, China, Bibles are confiscated, church buildings are burned, and evangelism is illegal. They see Christianity as a rival religion to the authority of the humanistic secular state. And that goes against the biblical command to put God's kingdom first. Worship him and him only should you serve. Number 4, socialists believe in the abolition of private property in land and application of all rents of land to public purposes. God thinks that private property ownership is a good thing. That's why we're not supposed to covet. 5, socialism advocates a progressive income tax. It's not the way you see it in the Bible. It was a flat tax in the Bible. Everybody paid the same amount. Now, sure, some people paid less or more, but it was a fair taxation system. Socialism ain't. That's why progressive taxes, it's not a biblical model. Number 7, reminds me, do you recall seeing Vodi Bakum? He was sitting on a panel. I think he was with, what's the name of the guy? He's got the pointy goatee, and they were talking about CRT. This is like several years ago. And the moderator said to Vodi, so what are you going to say next? That progressive taxes are like communist? Yeah, they are. It's exactly what they are. The moderator was surprised. In socialism, the state attempts to control all communication. Well, they shouldn't, because we are to have the freedom to proclaim the gospel. Number 8, in socialism, a utopia comes from a revolutionary change from the outside in. Christianity, it is a change from the inside out. Number 9, socialism categorizes people as either the oppressed or the oppressors. That's not the way God sees it. We are to judge with impartiality. This would be like going into a court of law. And it's preposterous, but that's exactly what is being encouraged with CRT. That the judge or the jury has to see the color of the skin and makes their decision based on the color of the skin. Or imagine, if that doesn't sound preposterous to you, imagine that the jury had to know how much you made. And if you made more than the person that you're in court with, well, you're the guilty one. You'd go, but wait, it's not fair. Exactly. Socialism categorizes people in an unbiblical way. The Bible categorizes people, though, in two different camps: saved, not saved. Number 10, socialists believe the government is responsible for all social care in socialist and communist countries. The state is responsible for caring for the poor. All goods and services provided by the state. Where did they get all that stuff? Oh, yeah, they took it from people who were producers. That's called stealing. That's called a redistribution of wealth. That is not recognizing hard work and the reward that comes with it. I think we have a parable about that. It doesn't recognize what a blessing it is to have some things that help you to achieve things. All that to say, in case you'd forgotten, communism, it ain't a good idea. You might want to share this list with your children because that's not what they're going to tell them if you send them to public school. Until tomorrow, go serve your king. If you would like to see the entire episode of the snippet you're watching and perhaps check out my piano chops, simply visit wretched.org. Well, thank you, Carol. I can't wait to try some of that low-sodium peppermint lasagna. Sounds delicious. Let's get to the weather, shall we? As you can see, we are going to have a massive warm front moving its way up the eastern seaboard, expecting temperatures upper 90s and low 100s. Unless, of course, you're outside of Christ. Then on Judgment Day, it is going to be hot. Back to you, Carol. Not only hot, weeping, gnashing of teeth. And so thirsty, your tongue's gonna be stuck to the roof of your mouth. You're just gonna wish for a storm to come through, which you folks down in the South can be expecting on Wednesday.